Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the door hinge pins on this 2003 Chevy Monte Carlo. And we show you on the driver's side, but the passenger side is the same procedure. And the items you'll need for this is a new door hinge pin kit from 1AAuto.com, a 13mm socket and ratchet with an extension, a flat blade screwdriver, a jack, a vise, a 1/2 inch and an 11/16 inch wrench, a drill with a 3/8 inch drill bit, a hammer and a punch, pliers, grease, and an assistant is recommended. If your door lifts up and down like this, you're probably in need of new hinge pins. Pull back this cover and just pull your harness out a little bit so that you know you have some slack, and then get your jack and place it right underneath the center of the door, and then remove these 4 13mm bolts. And you really want to leave in 1 bolt at the bottom and 1 bolt at the top, just a couple threads in, so that it'll hold the door in place, but you can quickly remove them. Have an assistant hold the door, and once the door is secured, then just remove those last 2 bolts and then slide the door back and out, and then pull your harness the rest of the way out of the side of the car.
Once you have the junction block out, there's 2 black tabs on either side. Once you press those tabs in, and the white lever should swing around, and then the harnesses disconnect. And then you can pull your door right off. Now use your ratchet, and this helps you get some leverage and move that out of the way so you can access those 2 13mm bolts. You remove those 2 bolts to remove either one of the hinges, and from here on out we're just going to show you how to rebuild the top hinge. It's a little bit more difficult than the bottom hinge, but the bottom hinge is the same process.
Now pry the spring back and out. And it pulls down. And then take a hammer and a punch, and right in the center of this pin, you want to just hammer a dent. And then line up your drill with the dent and just drill down through the pin. Using a chisel or a flat blade screwdriver, just hammer the top part off, and then use your punch to hit the bolt out the rest of the way. And we'll fast forward as Mike does the other side. You just want to flip it over and repeat the same process. And then you can just pull these 2 pieces apart, and then pull out these bushings. Now take your new bushings, line them up, and hammer them down into place. Now apply some grease to either side of this hinge and push it into place. Now take your pin for this one up here where the arm is, where the spring would go, and you want to just line that pin up like this. Now line this up in the vise and put a socket on the other side of the pin so the pin can push into it, and then just tighten up the vise until that pin is all the way in and flush. And then you can loosen up your vise. And now just twist on the nut on the other side of that pin. Put your other pin into place, and you'll see that this one already sticks out the other end, so you won't need to use the vise on this one. Just twist on the nut and then tighten it up, and it'll pull the pin the rest of the way through.
And you want to tighten these nuts up and then back them off about a quarter of a turn, and you'll notice that your hinge has a much smoother movement. It's not as floppy as it was before because it's now tighter.
Now just close the hinge like this, and then replace it into the vise. Pull back that arm, and then using pliers, push the spring closed and set it down into place.
So where the bolts came out, it's nice and clean. You want to use that to line it up when you put it back together. Okay, so when you put it back together, you could have it off and see, you could see the silver there or the silver there, but when you tighten it up, you want to place it so that the bolts are directly back where they were before, and that'll give you a good preliminary alignment.
We'll fast forward as he replaces those bolts and tightens them up. Pry the hinge open again.
Okay, and a couple notes from the lower hinge. The lower hinge bushings were actually in quote-unquote better shape, so they were a little more difficult to get out, but you can see just use a chisel and bend them and they'll come out. And then the other thing is, if you get confused about how the hinge used to go together, just bring it back to the car, line up the bolts, and line it up on the door with each section, and then just kind of bring them together to remind yourself how to get it back together.
Now put your door back on the jack and then reconnect the harness while your assistant holds the door steady. And just close that lever back down to lock the harness. And then feed the harness back into the side of the car, and then pull your door closer and line up those hinges. And then replace those 4 13mm bolts and tighten them up. Push the harness in the rest of the way, and then take this rubber boot and then just push it back into the side of the car. Now close your door and open it, and you can see it lines up perfectly. It doesn't lift up and down anymore, and it's all set.
We hope this video helps you out. Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free, 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.